When did you realize your sports centers with Keith Olbermann were turning into something bigger than just anchoring sports highlights?
I think when we met people outside of Connecticut, when we would be at the ESPYs, or we'd be in New York, or we'd be in Los Angeles, and you were meeting people who were reciting things that you said, or they recognized you. I remember TV Guide, when TV Guide was still around, and this was probably mid 90s, and they said the 10 shows to watch, 10 new shows to watch, and Keith and I were one of the 10. And things changed that day because it was like there are people out there who are watching, enjoying, following athletes. When I'd be on the road, if I was covering the NBA Finals or World Series, athletes knew who you were, would come up to you. It so we learned, but we didn't set out for that. We never ever discussed strategy. We never once said, "Hey, if we do this, this will happen," or "Why don't we do more of this?" Never once did it, because every time we came in, we caught up with each other, and then when we did the show, we didn't know what the other person wrote. We wanted to entertain each other, because you're in a sterile environment. You're in Bristol, Connecticut, in a studio with a floor director and a couple of camera people. We were trying to entertain them. That was it. I was not aware of ratings. We just did it. And in thinking back on it, we ESPN didn't want us to succeed the way we did, which is going to sound strange because nowadays they would kill for that because they're all about entertainment. Back then, they wanted us to sort of all fall in line, and SportsCenter was going to be the most important part. You're there to do SportsCenter. It's not, SportsCenter is lucky to have you two doing SportsCenter. And management fought us on that and so we did a lot of things surreptitiously, very clandestine, things that we said or how we said it. It was late at night. We didn't know if our bosses were watching, but that was the fun. There was some danger to it. And then one time we got called in on the carpet and we got read the riot act, but it didn't stop us. It just, I think, made us even smarter of trying to get away with things. Today, they would encourage all of that. And it might go back to the Howard Stern analogy. When you get to do everything, it takes away from a little bit of the mystery, whereas we had to be sneaky in doing it. And I thought that had that danger element, and it was smart humor. We never wanted to be obvious. We wanted to be snarky, but we also wanted to tap you on the shoulder and say, if you got it, great. If not, it's okay. We'll move on to the next highlight.
So if with ESPN Radio, they kind of similarly didn't want you to necessarily succeed the way you have succeeded now, by having more of a personality and freedom with the show. What, when you were at ESPN, gave you the confidence, or who gave you the confidence to be able to push limits and go outside the box with SportsCenter?
Probably Keith Olbermann did, because I think I was so worried about making mistakes. And I would watch a re-air of SportsCenter every night. We'd get done. I'd immediately go in and get the tape, and I'd go upstairs and I'd watch to see what I did wrong. And I remember Keith walked by and he said, "What are you doing? You got the bleeping job." And he was right. But I was searching for perfection, and I should have been searching for what I was doing right instead of what I was doing wrong. Like, are we having fun? Are we doing it in the way that we want to do this? How's the writing? Because we had to write, our entire show together. But I think then I sort of exhaled a little bit and went, all right. Because Keith would go, "Why aren't you the same person on the air that you are off the air?" And he was right. But I came from CNN, where when I was at CNN, it was the world's most important network. That was their motto. Well, who am I to show my personality on the world's most important network? I'm supposed to be beholden to the world's most important network. And as a result, I think I was always pushing the network first, and it wasn't about my personality. But when you're doing highlights and it's late at night, you want to keep people up, you want them to have fun, you want to entertain them, then it has to come from your personality. And that that really changed my direction of who I was at ESPN. And my first show I ever did was with Chris Berman, and you can't be around Chris and sort of not try to have some fun. You're not going to rival him, but you also have to compliment him and sort of be in the same space. And you can't help but have fun, or you should always have fun.
What was it that happened on SportsCenter that prompted management to call you guys in and read you the riot act?
I think they thought we were getting full of ourselves, that we were getting ahead of those four letters. And they were probably right. But I think you kind of have to push the boundary to know where the boundary is. And that's what we were trying to find out. What is the boundary? And okay, that's it. Now we can work our way back a little bit. But I'm glad we did it. But I'm glad management said something to us, because I didn't want it to be where we were overt in what we were trying to do. I just loved where it was a little bit of a surprise, a little bit of a mystery, sneaky, subtle. That was always my approach. And sometimes you play the straight man to Keith, and maybe it's vice versa. But we sort of knew what we were doing without ever communicating what we were doing.